Yo vole, what's up? Welcome to Evolve with Flaka, el podcast para crecer en tu carrera, boost your confidence y sentirte parte de la comunidad. I am Flaka, your HR mommy and hype woman for all the things careers. Cada Wednesday, we'll dive into some real talk, my own journey, my clients' career lessons. Of course, I'm going to share, pero con mucho cariño y discreción. And the estrategias you need to step boldly into your next boss era. Aquí, we grow con amor, we lead con poder, and we move with purpose. Let's evolve, mis jefas. Yo vole, I am back. It's your comadre Flaca in the house. Okay, so today, what will I share? I'm looking across my room right now, and there's a baby picture of me that they took in Mexico when I was a little girl. I think my mom said I was one. I barely had any pelo, and now it's like I got a head full of hair. Mucho pelo acá. Está grueso, aunque de postpartum se me está cayendo todo. I'm looking up in the picture, and if you're not watching this on camera, I have my index finger, mi dedo, lo tengo en mi barba. So I have it on the bottom of my chin, and I'm just kind of like looking up. And I have an uncle, RIP. Muchas gracias, mi tío Julio, que en paz descanse. Um, thinking about him makes me emotional. I'm sorry. Um, he would always look at that picture and be like, estabas pensando quién te ibas a chingar. And apparently, chingona and chingar and Mexico es una mala palabra, yo no sabía. So I didn't know that chinga is a bad word, apparently, in Mexico. Like chingona too. So this episode, we are going to talk. Well, we're not. I am. I don't have a guest today, but I'm going to share with you my story, basically, parts of it. The most like career driven part of it, going from the border to the boardroom. You like that title? Yeah, ChatGPT. Shout out to AI. Even though I understand that a lot of green spaces will be taken up because of ChatGPT. Here we go. So, I was born in Tlalnepantla de Vaz, México. En la Ciudad de México, Tlalnepantla, yo nací. In 95, baby. So, yes, I made the cut to be a 90s baby. And I don't remember too much of México. No me acuerdo mucho, pero sí me acuerdo de mi familia. I remember my family, mis tías, más las que me caían bien o las que sí me quisieron bien. En ese entonces, mostly the ones, that give shit about me. And I felt that love because as a child, we know. If you know, you know. So believe your children when they tell you, I don't want to go over there. I don't want to say hi. I don't want to do all the things. Believe your kids. So basically, I remember my family. I remember both of my maternal and paternal grandparents' houses, which are instinctly like they're quite different, or the experience was for me as a child. On my mom's side, it was very like it feels and it felt very hood, very like very Oak Cliff vibes, like very um united but yet not, like they're not afraid to talk shit. You know what I mean? Like they run their fucking mouth. And then but they still back each other up. And then on my daddy's side, it felt kind of like where I'm at now, which is Duncanville. And shout out to the City of Champions. And it just felt like more like they want to pretend to be sophisticated, but yet they also run their mouths and they sometimes pick and choose when to have each other's backs, but still love them all, most of them. Let's just say that. So, My understanding is, so maybe when I was about 4 years old, don't quote me on the timeline, it's been years. So do the math. In about 2000, there were a lot of economic struggles in Mexico. There continue to be, that's always been there. And so my family, I'm sure my parents had a conversation, and my dad decided that he was going to come first and came to this country, the United States of America. I believe he stayed initially with one of my uncles in Arlington, Texas. And, of course, this man went from being a whole like desk job employee to like labor work because that, you know, that's what they expect. That's what they want. That's what they need in this country, right? Because not everybody wants to do those jobs. Like keep it 100. And so basically he comes, and then fast forward for some months around that same year is my understanding. Again, I'm a child, that I start questioning my mother about on está papi? Like where's my father? And you know, I think it weighed heavy on her. I think the culture expectations came upon her and just were weighing very heavy on her, and things were not easy. I remember we were staying at her dad's house, and we had always been together, like regardless of their problems and their fights and their disagreements and just, couples drama and issues. The culture, the Mexican culture, is like you stay with your man no matter how toxic, abusive, rude, just fucking jerks they can be. And with the women too, right? But I know they have a lot of history that I may or may not know. And so part of that culture is you follow your man. You keep your family together no matter what. No importa. So my mom decides that we're coming. Since you're doing good on this side, then and in norte as we say, then I'm going with the kids. I'm coming with the kids. So no idea, right? Like how that process goes. And maybe my mom will share someday. But it's actually really hard right now, right? Because this is actually one of the reasons why I decided to start this podcast, to really show that evolution and share our stories. Because right now, in a time where we're being attacked and they want to throw us back into the shadows, throw us back into the fear, create slave labor out of us, and it's just, I refuse to let that happen. So this is part of my revolution, of joining the revolution, because it will not be televised. So I'm gonna record what I can. And also I think about these generations now, that they need to find us mentors who have done our best, who have been through this, so then they know si se puede. Literally, you can do it. It may look different, se puede ver muy diferente, but si puedes. So it'll look very different, but you can do it. It'll just be hard, but you got it. So we essentially start the journey. And I remember we got to Juarez. Shout out to Ciudad Juarez. And I only know that because that's like what my mom and my brother remember. Um, so I'm 5'2" right now. My niece is she's 11 years old, and she's probably 5'2" now, 5'3", so a little taller than me. My brother was that height when he was like 8. Now he's 6'2". So basically, what I understand is that um, the kids would get driven through the checkpoint or the border by different couples, with documents or without inspection, as it's called. And that's what I remember. But my brother and my mom took the longer journey. That's what I referred to it. because I wasn't there. I don't know. Not a lot of people talk about that journey because it's just, we know, and if you know, you know. It's one of those situations. Basically, I'm 5 years old. I'm at Ciudad Juarez. Never have I been apart from my mom, y'all. This shit's about to get triggering. I had never been away from my mom, and um, basically, she tells me that I'm gonna stay with this lady who's not the cutest, pretty ratchet older lady, pretty rude. And she tells me that it's just gonna be a couple of days and to pretend like I was staying with one of my tias and that we would see each other soon, but that I couldn't go with them. And I'll always be grateful to God that my brother got to go with my mom because from what my brother shares, my mom survived that journey because he was there to pick her up when she fell through rivers and she fell through spikes, and it was just a hard time. I was in that stranger's house a couple days, maybe weeks. I don't remember exactly. Um, and they would make us do things like iron grown man clothes and prep beans. I That's probably the reason I don't cook for my man now because I refuse to feel like I have to do something that I don't want to do, like cook some beans. So I'll just buy them. And if you're my homie, you know, no me meto a la cocina. Um, so basically, it was like child labor that we were doing for this woman and these people. And one of my uncles from this side of the border would call me and he would just be like, ¿Cómo estás, China? Because that's what they would call me when I was little. Because my curls are kind of gone, but I had a lot of curls when I was little. I burnt them in middle school because nobody told me that you don't straighten your hair when it's wet, but I did it with the Hello Kitty straightener that I happened to get at Target. Anyway, so my uncle would call me. He would be like, ¿Cómo estás, China? And I'd just be like, Estoy bien. Like, what? What is a 5-year-old supposed to tell you when I've never even met you and this is my first time speaking to you and you're calling me because my mother asked you to? I didn't know what to say. So, estoy bien. That's when survival mode, I'm sure, started for me. I was very confused. I was very like, who are these people? Where are we going? What's happening? Then I remember one specific night, I think like the lady started telling us we were going to leave. They had little girls, like it wasn't a lot. It was maybe like two, three girls in one room, and then they had two, three boys in another room. I'll always be grateful to the little boy from Honduras that they brought me with in this journey because he was ready. Like you could tell this kid was like been surviving. Like he knew violence, he knew defense mechanism. Like it was just crazy to me. So basically, the room where they had us girls was upstairs of this house, and then the boys were downstairs. This lady had a couple of sons, older. One night, like one of her sons comes in the house and just starts like banging doors and stuff. And then he gets into the room where us girls are at. I'm one of the older ones. So he lays next to me and starts trying to touch me, or actually rub my leg a little. Didn't get into any area where it would be, it was all inappropriate. So I don't even know what to call it. But yes, he did touch me. And I just remember I was like, whoa, what is this feeling? I don't like it. So I got up, I ran. And when I ran downstairs, I started crying and I just kind of like hid by a couch downstairs in that house. The little boy from Honduras comes out of his room and he's like, ¿Qué pasó? Like, what happened? And I'm like, tengo miedo. And he was like, ¿De qué? And I was like, es que me tocó mi pierna. And he was like, Yo te cuido. And he said, I'll take care of you. And he said, Duérmete con nosotros, sleep with us. But my brother never let me sleep with boys. It was only him that I could sleep with as my brother. He just didn't like that. He never allowed it to happen. My big brother, we're 4 years apart. And so basically, this little boy's like, I'm gonna take care of you, te cuido. And we go in the boys' room, and then it's just amazing how kind human beings, we take care of each other. And that was like the first time I actually saw that and experienced that. And I will never not take my shirt off my back for another. Um, so basically, he grabs pillows and he creates a fort on the bed, and it's like only him and like two other little boys too. Creates a fort, and I'm able to lay on that bed on the other side of the fort. And he's like, no one's gonna touch you here. And he has that. He's like, and if they do, I'm gonna take care of them. Like, yo les doy su merecido. I remember that's what he said. And it was a little Game Boy. If you had, back in the days, those Game Boys, those little boxes with the games that would slide in through the top. He had one of those, and then the bottom part of the game was actually, it had a blade that he made slide into that game. It was crazy. And if you're wondering, like, what does an immigrant child carry with them to cross through the border? They don't let us take anything. They don't let us bring anything. So this boy snuck this in his pants to protect himself. I had a couple of jewelry pieces on me, which I do still have. I snuck them with me. And so basically, I had a Barney backpack with some of my things. They took my backpack, they took my doll, they took everything, and they said we couldn't bring anything with us. And so I only like took off my little necklace that I had with me. It was an angelito. I still have it now. I plan to give that to my baby girl. And that's it. That's it. The day comes when they're like, we're gonna go see your parents now. He was only gonna see his mom, so was I. Our moms crossed together, his older sister and my older brother. They had left. That's who we were meeting up. Then we get in a car and it's some strangers couple, and they're like, hey, pretend that you're asleep. And if you hear banging on the window, don't look up. And if you do look up, all you're going to say is yes, yes, yes. And if you're supposed to say no, look for the signal from your mom, which is the lady that, is there. And so um, I forgot the signal. I'm not going to lie to you, keeping it real here. I don't know. I was 5. And so we're getting through, and then we get to the other side of the border. We're driving, driving, driving. It's like a long ass road trip. And my understanding is that we arrived to El Paso. And then we get to this lady's house, y'all. Like, but the way that we get there is creepy AF, okay? Like, it was the middle of the night. They dropped us off on like the corner of some street, and they said, run to the house with the light on, and right by the doorbell, there's this plant with this like image on the base. What the? And they're like, just run. And it's basically like a back alley of these streets. So I imagine like now where I live, there's like an alley in the back, where the garages are set up sometimes. Running back there, and there's dogs barking, and there's like all the things, right? So we just run. Like we're thinking we're about to be chased because that's they told us to just run. So we ran through, we get to the door, they get the door for us. We get inside, and it's a beautiful home, like beautiful. Tall ceilings, windows everywhere. This lady got cash money, okay? And she's like, ay, sí llegaron con bien, gracias a Dios. Like, you made it, thank God. Okay, what are we doing here now? And then she's like, we're gonna wait for your parents now. We're gonna wait for your families. Let's get you ready. Here, I have you some clean clothes. What would y'all like to eat? I remember it was late at night, and she was like, han comido Jack? And I'm thinking, what the fuck is Jack? Who is Jack? I don't remember any Jack in Mexico. So then she tells us it's una hamburguesa, les gusta con quesito, like, do you like it with some cheese, all this stuff, right? And this is the first time that I have Jack en la caja or Jack in the box. And we were starving because all the lady was feeding us at Juarez was like rice, beans, and tortillas. And then so we were like, yes, sí, por favor. And she got us Jack in the Box, and we got, what is it, Jumbo Jacks, I think they're called. I haven't had Jack in years since my uncle got deported. Um, because he was a huge Jack in the Box fan, or he is, maybe. Is there Jacks in Mexico? I don't know. I should look that up. Take my card. Um, so we have Jack in the Box, and then after Jack in the Box, after dinner, a lot of people wonder why I'm addicted to Coke, like Coca-Cola. I had Coke with that Jack in the Box burger, and Coke's always been there for me. It's an emotional attachment. I had a sip of my Coke, and while I was drinking my Coke, the lady comes to the dining room and she shares that our families are in the other room, that we're gonna see them. And we go into the room. It's the back room. They came through the backyard too, and I'll never forget how my mom looked and my brother. Um, my mom always took care of herself. She was an Avon salesperson, and she always dressed us up nice. She always took care of us. She was a stay-at-home mom in Mexico, and she walked in, or I walked into the room. They were already sitting there, and she was like dirty, really dirty, like dirt all over clothes I didn't even recognize. They weren't hers. My brother's clothes were ripped. Their knees were bloody. Their elbows were dirty. They just didn't look like my mom and my brother anymore. And I'll never forget that. We just hugged, and my mom said, ya casi se acaba. This is almost done. Vamos a estar bien. We're gonna be okay. We are gonna be okay. That's never gonna happen again. I didn't know what that meant for me, for my family, for anyone until years later. So we get to Dallas on the airplane, September of 2001. It's like crazy that we got here like a little bit after 9/11. So TSA wasn't as tough back then, and a lot of things just aligned for us to get here as safely as possible. And I remember running to my dad's arms when I saw him at the DFW airport. And I was mad because I didn't know what happened or why like, we never talked about why they looked like that. But now as an adult, I understand. It was those valleys, it was those thorns, it was those bushes you gotta hide from and run through and cross walls and these man-made fucking borders, right? I knew, I could feel it as a kid that my brother was no longer a boy. This was a man now who went through some shit. And he never talks about it. Um, so basically we get here to Oak Cliff, baby, shout out. And we enroll in school. District 6 in Dallas. I only know that because now I have no choice but to get involved in these so-called politics to try my best to defend my community and stand up with the privileges and entitlements that I do have that I've earned. and that have been our communities because our native lands were ours. I am in the bloodline of indigenous ancestors that were here way before they were conquered, and the people forget that. So this is ours. Um, so we go to Oak Cliff, we start going to school. I get pretty smart, y'all. I learn English real quick. I start reading books in English and Spanish. Everyone's impressed. I kept up my bilingual like skills. You can tell I still got them. And I can turn no sabo real quick, but it takes me a little longer than other people. So we go through Oak Cliff. Then our apartment breaks, like burns down in Oak Cliff on Hampton and Polk. And we have an uncle that stays out here in Duncanville. We transfer to Duncanville ISD. I start here in the fourth grade and keep going through school. So, you know, the basics. Good kid, ran for class president in the fourth grade, but always had that kick to me. Yes, I cheated on a couple of tests. History specifically, I fucking hate it. It's just nothing but pain and drama in history. Like, I get it. Like, now I understand I should have paid more attention to it, but it wasn't that useful to me back then as a kid. So then get here to Duncanville, starting to get a little rebel in me, get to the fifth grade, start really becoming a rebel, then sixth grade, not really get into anything interesting. I would like argue with my Spanish teacher in middle school because they were teaching us like Spaniard Spanish, and I was like, that's not how you say it. How you gonna tell me? I'm Mexican. I literally was born speaking Mexicano, like Espanol. So I would always get sent to like ISS or whatever it's called, detention for that because I would talk to the teacher, the white man teaching me Spanish. I should have known I was going to be an activist since back then. So middle school happens. I was never really into sports. I realized academics was getting my parents' attention, so I tried for them, not necessarily because I saw any value in it. That's just keeping it 100 with you. In middle school, like just go through it. In high school, in high school, them daddy issues started popping up. Let me tell you, I wanted men attention, like I wanted boys attention. And so I started doing things that weren't necessarily appropriate or professional, responsible for my age, basically skipping, getting boyfriends here and there. And, but I was still like trying to balance being responsible, but also having quote unquote fun, right? In my own way. And the way that I find out that what it means to be born in Mexico is that I get into a class where they're teaching us how to code and build websites and build all the Microsoft products things, so PowerPoints, Word documents, Excels, all the things. I even am certified as a Microsoft Office specialist, which if you don't know about that, we can talk about certifications later on. But I do have that certification due to my high school achievements and opportunities that a teacher insisted that I should do it because I'm pretty good at it. So I go through that class. I land an internship because I've been good at just talking to people, being a human since I was young. So I land an interview, I land a job, and they hand me a W-9. And it says Social Security or Employer Identification Number. Well, I don't have either of those numbers and I have no idea what it means. So I asked my parents, and my parents are like, don't you tell anyone that you don't have that and do not go back to that class. And counselors, they're pretty rough to get a hold of, right? They take care of a lot of kids, and if you're not the top A student and you haven't built a relationship or you don't have a psycho quote unquote mother who is always chasing them for information, and they're not going to pay attention to you, keeping it 100 here. So my counselor, don't even remember her. never went, or them. I don't know if it was a dude. Never got support with my schedule like that. Don't recall them. Didn't make an impact. And they should be the most impactful adults for our kids in public education, in my opinion, because they have the resources to guide us on where we're trying to go and how we can get there. Anyway, so I start skipping that class. The teacher eventually finds me and she's like, "What the fuck's going on?" And I'm like, "I can't tell you." She insists, she pushes, 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 and tells me, you have all this energy to do all these other things that have nothing to do with what's going to be helpful for your future, like dating all the boys and skipping all the classes and just being like around the halls and even like all the sports events or whatever, right? Trying to be cool. And long story shorter, she basically starts doing her research and she's like, "Hey, President Obama is signing, there's talks that he's signing something for immigrants." Because eventually I trusted this person, this teacher, and I told her what my mom told me not to tell her because she just annoyed me, honestly. And she really genuinely cared. So, and she was just upset. I don't know if teachers get anything for kids winning competitions, but she knew like I could get the medals under her belt or under our belt. So she was trying to take me to competitions and stuff, but it was like, I can't go. I don't want to go. I don't even know what it means, right? And so she insisted. And fast forward, this is like all the way through high school, okay, where I find out I'm like a sophomore, late sophomore year or something like that. And I just don't really care for my education. I start slacking. It's a miracle that I made it through high school. So, yes, I was labeled at risk. I went to court a couple of times. I got truancy all 4 years. I have the tickets to prove it. I almost went to juvie. The judge went from a white man to a black man the beginning of my senior year, and he said, "Yeah, I'm not going to give you a ticket, girl. You're going to counseling." The white man just took my money. But that black man was like, "No, you need some help." So he got me to some counseling, and that's where I started hearing, like, "You all have been labeled at risk. Does anyone understand what that means?" And that's when I found out what it means, right? And so I didn't like how that set. This teacher gave me support. My dad has always been a very ambitious person, regardless of his circumstances. And then my brother, and that's another story that I can invite him to come talk about, he becomes a teen parent. I start seeing so many of my cousins or people in my circles like struggling. And then I start like hanging out with friends whose parents actually have like better homes or they own their homes and they don't have like cars that they have cars that have air conditioning and their lights are on and their pantries are full. And I'm like, how did your parents do this? Like, how do you have such a nicer life? And I realized the difference was one of the differences was the parents were pushing their kids to do schoolwork. Like, my friends would literally be like, their parents were like, "Don't close the door until you're done with your homework," while I was there hanging out with them. So I was like, huh, maybe I should do my schoolwork. So then basically me pongo las pilas, I put on the battery or whatever, right? Like I'm like, maybe I should try doing something with school. This teacher starts talking to me about going to the school after high school. And I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. We actually start applying. She gets me some scholarship applications. We fill them out. I get scholarships, y'all. Like, I was like, what? And then we start school shopping. And I end up at UNT Dallas, not an Eagle, not Denton, UNT Dallas on 20 and Camp Wisdom, or 35 Camp 20 and I forget what street that is, University Hills. I end up there because no lie, the sneakers people wore made me feel at home. They weren't like the other schools where everybody was wearing, I don't know, like shoes that I never even seen. Because I do love sneakers, Jordans all day, every day. Make me feel powerful. Um, so I end up at UNC Dallas. I actually started as an IT major because that's what I've been good at. Love technology, makes our lives easier. in some ways. And so I started as an IT major. I really quickly realized the vibes aren't there. I married an IT professional. My husband does IT. And it just nobody was trying to be my friend. And I'm a little social butterfly if you personally know me, and it just the vibe wasn't there. So I go into the advisor's office because I'm basically failing my first semester. No one told me that college is not like high school. So, you know, in high school, you have 8 classes, 8 blocks or whatever. I chose to take 8 classes. That's 24 credit hours, y'all, while I was working because I had to get a car because there's no public transportation here in Duncanville. So, and nobody was going to give me a ride because everyone's working. It was just crazy. So I had to get a car. So I was working while I was going to school, right? And at this time, I already started looking into DACA. Okay, so I was able to start off my first semester in college with the Texas in-state tuition, which now is gone, 2025, and it's gone. Okay, so then I get into UNC Dallas. I'm talking to the advisor. My first semester, I ended with a 1.9, and my scholarship requirement was a 3.0. Yeah, I didn't know what I was gonna do. I get the probationary letter, like all the things, right? Ooh, okay. So I go talk to this advisor and I'm like, what are the next steps? It says I have to talk to you on this letter. And he's like, hey, look, you might just need to do something that you fit better into because this IT thing's not for you. And you're taking 8 classes. Who told you to do that? And I'm like, well, nobody told me not to do or what to do. And I'm the first to go to college in my family, right? So he's like, no, you should be doing 4 classes because it's 12 hours. And then I'm like, okay, so I'm going to go 12 hours a week. And that's going to be, and he's like, no, no, no. Yes, you're going to go to 12 hours a week, but they're only work 12 hours, even though you're going for so many months. It was just so confusing to me. So I'm like, okay, well, what would be easier? Well, what do you like to do, Janet? Oh, well, you know what? I love helping people. I love influencing people. I love connecting with people. I love socializing with people. He's like, oh, what about a teacher? No, I have been volunteering at my church for years with teenagers, and I can only deal with them for an hour. I'll go to prison if I deal with them all week. That's just not gonna work. Then he's like, what about a police officer? This sir clearly did not check my documentation. Because you can't be a cop if you don't have a social security. And you can't even be a cop with the social security. You have to be a citizen. So, or I'm sure even a resident. I don't know. Don't want to be a cop. So I'm like, no. And then he's like, well, what about HR? And I'm like, well, what is that? I'm like 18 going on 19 here. He starts telling me these are the people at companies who go through the entire life cycle of an employee. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? He's like, well, they post jobs. They help decide who's going to get the job. They help decide who's going to get paid how much for those positions. They decide what that position's name is. They create the documents for the positions. They help decide the processes. They run the payroll. They decide benefits. They like it just goes through the list of what HR does. And I quickly realized the power, the influence, and control that this degree and people in it have over people's careers. And I decided that's the one for me. I can go through my resume specifically another episode. But basically, I have spent the last 10 years, close to a decade plus, making sure to evolve what I can, where I can in the HR field where I've worked. I have been a manager of teams. I have managed warehouses. I have managed logistics, transportation. Now I'm in healthcare. I've done international consulting. I have my own a nonprofit. I'm doing HR career coaching. So I love what I do. I am now in rooms where I hear individuals talking about how people who just finished high school may not be able to do certain jobs. And that is absolutely not true. I've become an advocate, and I knew that I had to do more to advance in my career. So when you see me professionally, yes, the comma is there with an MBA, with an SPHR. If you know, you know. That's Senior Professional Human Resources. And then a COSHO. That's a Certified Safety and Health Official. So I have evolved professionally to an extent that I don't even understand it sometimes. Like, how did I get here? But when I reflect on it now as a more mature adult, a parent, a sister, a tia, a comadre, a friend, a community leader, I made decisions that really paved my own path to this incredible success that others did not count on for me. But I made it happen. And it had to be that I allowed myself to evolve from that little scared little girl who was just looked at as whatever arriving to this country to then somebody that worked really hard and then paved my own way to making sure that I did what I needed to do. I had to take a long pause there because as a mom, I have to evolve as I'm doing these things because I have a 6 month old who absolutely needs my nurturing, and then a 6 year old who absolutely relies on my education experience and basic parenting to be able to support him through some of his autism um things. So yeah, I just have been making decisions now when I reflect on them where they were not comfortable, they were not easy, they were difficult, there were things I didn't understand, but I really relied on intuition. Now I know what that's called, on my community, on that unity I've talked about, and I constantly talk about the unity of being in a community, of not being afraid to ask questions, of connecting with people that are genuine about where how their journey has also been, and then they don't gatekeep. So I'm here to let you know I'm not gatekeeping anything. You have a question, you reach out, because there are seldom limited people in my field in HR. That's part of the reason why it's so hard to get into HR, and I'm constantly getting asked, how did you do it? Because there's so many people that get in there and then they don't share the knowledge. And HR is one of those fields where conversations cannot be taught on how to have them. And it's all the way from the payroll to the benefits to the recruitment to the vendor management to the people relations to the organizational development to the promoting, the transferring. Like, I could go on and on about what we do in this field, but basically, it's just I've made it to the boardroom where I present to board of directors about what the plan and the forecast needs to be in order for these companies and these organizations to continue evolving and continue to be competitive in this capitalistic society. So it if it's also impactful to you how I have evolved, then I am speaking to you, and I hope that you will continue to listen to my story, my experiences, because I need to share. I have felt it in my heart for so many years to get on this and share about my journey so others can see the light. literally. And I can share my experiences for everyone to be able to just change their own world and learn from these lessons that I've taken and decisions. So please make sure you send me your questions. I would love to hear if you learned anything from this episode, and especially if you are undocumented or an immigrant, please connect with me. It is so important for us to be in community right now and show each other some love because the world, this nation, is hating on us. A prime example is a TikTok I just made about y'all are accusing people like us for stealing your jobs, but your walls don't look like mine. And what I mean is all these degrees that I have busted my behind to make sure that I earn when I didn't even want to. It's because the society you have all created told me to. Because if I didn't have that MBA, I doubt I could be an HR manager. I doubt that they would let me in that break room if I didn't have that SPHR. Because look it up. Look up the SPHR and the percentage of Latinas and young people that even get that certification. It's crazy. It's crazy to me that this is happening. This has happened to me, but that's what happens when you allow yourself to evolve. Some people call it surrendering. I don't know. Some people call it hustle. I don't know. I don't know what you want to call it, but either way, el que es perico, donde quiera es verde. Y que el que es pendejo, donde quiera pierde. Así que pónganse las pilas, mi gente. Make sure that you put on them batteries and get to it. Don't sleep on it. This is your girl Flaka, and I'll see y'all till next time. Thanks for listening to Evolve con Flaka. Don't forget to follow, share with another jefa, and let's keep building comunidad. Stay chingona, stay confident, and keep evolving. Nos vemos next week.